Okay, we really need to talk about this space mission that everyone is dragging online right now. Katy Perry, Gayle King, Jeff Bezos' fiancée Lauren Sanchez, and a handful of other women hop on a Blue Origin rocket, shoot into space for literally 11 minutes, and then come back down like they just saved the world. The headlines were all, "This is a huge moment for women, feminist history," but the internet was like,
"What? Bro."
People are not holding back. From viral TikToks absolutely roasting this trip, to Emily Ratajkowski straight up calling it a billionaire flex and not progress, this whole thing has turned into a full-on PR disaster. So yeah, I'm gonna explain everything. From what this mission actually was, to why it's getting so much backlash, and why it's rubbing literally everyone the wrong way. You're gonna wanna stick around till the end, because the wildest takes and the biggest red flags, they come after the landing. So here's the thing. On paper, this should have been a total win, right? An all-female crew going to space. That sounds like progress, like something that should have been in textbooks. But instead, the moment this flight landed, the collective internet hit record, stitch, and side-eye. What was meant to be empowering turned into a trending disaster. Fast. The backlash was immediate. TikToks popped up within minutes of the live stream ending, with creators literally asking, "How is this feminist again? And did Katy Perry just announce her tour set list in space?" You couldn't scroll without seeing someone ripping the whole thing apart. Like, usually people are hyped about space missions, especially when it involves women breaking barriers. The energy was off, the reactions were chaotic, and people who would normally be celebrating were suddenly very uncomfortable. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. The whole thing felt weird. Not because it was women going to space, but because of who those women were, how it was framed, and the very obvious money trail behind the mission. There's just something about watching a group of celebrities, none of them scientists, none of them astronauts, float around in zero gravity, while all the woman astronauts who have trained for years to go to space and weren't able to, and then had to watch whatever this is.
God.
And as soon as clips started circulating, Katy Perry floating with a daisy in her hand, Lauren Sanchez looking like she was filming an action movie, Katy Perry and Gayle King kissing the ground like she just returned from Mars, people couldn't help but ask, what was the point? Who was this really for? The tone online wasn't celebration. It was disbelief, confusion, frustration. And that's where this whole thing goes from awkward to viral mess. Because what started as a high-profile mission for women quickly became a full-blown internet takedown. A moment that was supposed to be empowering turned into the latest example of what people are calling out as performance activism. You know, when there's a lot of symbolism but no substance behind it. So yeah, people are calling it a feminist PR stunt gone wrong. And if you're wondering how something like this even got greenlit, why it feels so off, and how this turned into the most bizarre backlash of the year, trust me, we're just getting started and you definitely don't want to miss out on this. Emily Ratajkowski, our unofficial spokesperson for calling out billionaire nonsense. Because when I say she did not hold back, I mean she ripped this mission to shreds in under 60 seconds. Her TikTok went viral in hours. It was the exact kind of reaction people were waiting for. Blunt, sharp, and kind of devastating. She starts her video basically looking into the camera like she's already fed up. And she says, and I'm paraphrasing, "So you're saying this is for Mother Earth, but you're blasting off in a rocket funded by the same people actively destroying it?"
You care about Mother Earth and it's about Mother Earth, and you're going up in a spaceship that is built and paid for by a company that's single-handedly destroying the planet. And think about how many resources went into putting these women into space for what? And then to try to make it like, I'm disgusted, literally, I'm disgusted.
She points out the hypocrisy of it all, how this mission was dressed up as something meaningful, something symbolic, but at the end of the day, it was just a handful of rich people using a ridiculous amount of resources for a joyride, while the rest of the world is out here literally trying to survive. Like, if you're gonna flex, at least be honest about it. Don't act like this was some act of global unity or feminist legacy building. And she didn't stop there. The next day she comes back, because apparently even she had more to say. She breaks it down even further, this time focusing on how something can look like progress, but still be completely hollow.
Really looks like, optically, looks like progress. But the truth is that having a man who has gained his power and become a part of the 1% purely through exploitation and greed, deciding to take his fiancée and a few other famous women to space for space tourism is not progress.
Like, yes, we're seeing women and people of color in new spaces, and that visually feels like a win. But when it's still being orchestrated by the same few billionaires who got rich off exploiting labor, draining resources, and dodging taxes, that's not empowerment. That's just marketing. She even says something that really hit, that we're not in a moment of progress, we're in an oligarchy. A world where a small group of ultra-rich people are basically playing space dress-up while the rest of us are just trying to afford groceries. And when that kind of truth hits social media, people ran with it. Suddenly, comment sections everywhere were full of people echoing her exact words, stitching her video, duetting, quoting her in captions. She went from TikTok reaction to movement energy in like a day. People started asking the same questions she did. Why were these women chosen? What's the mission really about? And if this is what progress looks like, who exactly is it benefiting? This wasn't someone chasing views or trying to hop on a trend. Emily's reaction hit because it reflected something so many people were already feeling. Like, we've all seen the way companies and billionaires try to slap empowerment labels on everything. But when someone finally says it out loud, especially someone with a platform, that message sticks. And in this case, it completely shifted the vibe around the whole mission. And while a few people tried to come for her in the comments, calling her too cynical or jealous, the overwhelming majority were like, no, she's just saying what we're all thinking. She was the first big voice to really say, this isn't historic, it's hollow. Her videos became the unofficial transcript of what the internet was screaming all day. That this wasn't about science, it wasn't about equality, and it definitely wasn't about women's empowerment. It was about access. And when access is limited to the rich, no matter how pretty the optics are, the rest of the world is going to notice. So here's the part that really set people off. The money. Because let's be honest, space isn't cheap. Like, not even close. Estimates for a seat on a Blue Origin flight like this, anywhere from $150,000 to $500,000 per person. Multiply that by 6 people, and we're already looking at millions. And that's just for the passengers. That's not including the rocket, the tech, the staffing, the PR rollout, the security, the broadcast, the logistics, the everything. Some experts estimate that a single launch like this could cost tens of millions, depending on how much of it is comped or written off for publicity. And nobody knows if any of these women even paid. That detail was left completely vague. Were they invited? Sponsored? Was this just a brand move? Because if they didn't pay, then we're talking about a multi-million-dollar mission handed out like an influencer trip, but to space. So naturally, people started asking the obvious question. If you're going to spend that kind of money, what exactly are we getting out of it? Because it wasn't science. It wasn't research. It was a few rich people floating around above Earth for 11 minutes and then coming back down like they just went through war. People started listing all the things that money could have done. And instead, it sent a handful of celebrities on a space-themed photo shoot. It's not even just about the amount. It's the timing. Like, read the room. We're living through a cost of living crisis. Rent is up, student loan payments are back, wages haven't moved in years, and somehow we're supposed to cheer because Katy Perry got to float above the stratosphere while singing, "What a Wonderful World." People were not having it. And let's not forget, this wasn't Blue Origin's first flight. The company's already been criticized for wasting resources on space tourism instead of pushing real innovation. There's a big difference between space exploration and space tourism. One is about discovery, science, maybe even survival. The other is, well, this. A flex, a vanity project, a chance for billionaires to say, look what we can do, while the rest of us are checking the price of eggs. So when people say this money could have gone to literally anything else, they're not exaggerating. It could have, and it should have. Because if your empowerment campaign costs millions and accomplishes nothing for anyone outside your group chat, was it ever really empowering? Katy Perry singing in zero gravity while holding a daisy. Yes, that actually happened. She sang "What a Wonderful World" mid-flight and brought a daisy with her to honor her daughter, Daisy Dove. Which, look, on paper, that's sweet. But when you're floating in a rocket that cost millions, with a film crew capturing every angle, it starts to feel less like a heartfelt moment and more like a space-themed ad campaign. And the whole women supporting women narrative they were trying to push felt off. The messaging was like, look how far we've come, women in space. But when you look at who those women were, it felt less like inclusion and more like exclusivity with a blowout. Because yeah, they were all women, but they were also rich, famous, and very, very connected. This wasn't about lifting up underrepresented voices. It was about centering already powerful women and dressing it up as progress. They were quick to point out that there are actual female astronauts who've trained their entire lives for the chance to go to space, and probably never will. Meanwhile, Katy Perry floats around for 11 minutes and becomes the face of interstellar feminism. Like, come on. The whole thing gave performative empowerment. It was the kind of girl boss moment that would have maybe flown in 2016. But now, people want real impact, not carefully curated optics. You can't just throw on a jumpsuit, hop on a rocket, say a few lines about breaking barriers, and expect the world to cheer when there's no substance behind it. And that's the thing. Space has always been a symbol of possibility, of breaking limits. So if you're going to send women up there and call it a milestone, it should actually mean something. It should be about science, innovation, representation with purpose. Not just photo ops and soft piano music playing in the background while someone floats with a flower. Even the press moments after they landed felt overly rehearsed. Hugs, tears, speeches about how life-changing it was. And again, no one's denying that going to space isn't emotional or powerful. But when that emotion is paired with a media rollout and talking points, it stops feeling authentic. People weren't inspired, they were uncomfortable. It felt like watching someone try to have a breakthrough moment. But everyone in the audience already knew it was scripted. The term empowerment gets thrown around so much that it's kind of lost its meaning. And this mission really proved that. Because if you're going to use space travel to promote women's progress, you've got to actually do the work. Invite women in STEM, partner with educators, spotlight scientists, fund real access. But instead, we got zero-gravity vocals and staged symbolism. Billionaires building rockets, celebrities floating around like it's no big deal, and the rest of us stuck here watching the planet burn. It's giving elite exit strategy. And this isn't just some random internet theory. People have been pointing it out for a while now. Bezos, Musk, Branson, all of them are pouring money into space tech, and none of it feels like it's really for us. It's always branded as innovation, but when the only people getting a seat are the rich and famous, you start wondering if they know something we don't. Like, are these space tourism launches just test runs? Is this really about celebrating women, or beta testing who gets a ride when Earth finally taps out? All right, so now that we've seen all of it, the launch, the press, the reactions, the backlash, and everything in between, I want to know what you think. Because at this point, it kind of feels like there's two sides to this. The one they're showing us, and the one people are actually feeling. I'm really curious where everyone lands on this, because this whole thing has kind of peeled back a bigger conversation. Not just about space travel, but about how we define progress, who gets to participate in it, and who it's actually for. So sound off in the comments. Tell me where you stand. Was this a win, or was it just another distraction disguised as a milestone? And if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. Seriously. Whether you agree, disagree, or are still processing it all, I appreciate you being here for the entire conversation. Let's keep it going down below. I'll be reading everything, and please like, share, and subscribe for more of these videos.